Welcome back to the channel, and in this video I'm going to be actually show you to how you can have the insights into your application. Most of them are going to be the Forge applications because I believe that the Connect applications have been deprecated and that there is a migration from Connect to Forge applications. So we're talking about the Atlassian Developer Console. In this console right here, what you can actually see are all of the applications that you have created. Well, I have created a bunch of them. I created like 64 apps. So that's a pretty big number. And I have all of these apps listed here. So I'm going to take one app, for example. Let me just take the app that is going to be named app. And when you click on it, there are going to be some information that you can actually have look into, like the app ID, what is the number of development environments, and where it's actually being deployed to. So when it comes to Forge, you have three development environments. You have development, you have staging, and you have production. Development is basically you can actually work on your application from your instance, but it's not showing the live data for your customers, for example. Then you have this section of monitoring when it's this where it is displaying like the number of installations and also the logs, who are the contributors to the app, and what are some of the permissions in here. The very first thing that we're actually having is the environments. And like I said, there is development, staging, and production. So it's saying in here that this app hasn't been being deployed to the production as well. Another interesting info that you can actually find in here is the version of your application that you have deployed on one of your environments. For deployments, it's actually saying, well, basically your app hasn't been deployed yet. But now the question is, okay, but I can actually see it on the development environment. That's true. But in order for this data to actually be being shown, you need to deploy your application to the production environment. Once it's actually on the environment production, it will be showing some of the information in here. Then you also have the platform health. Now, this platform health is for the Forge specifically. So this is not for your application. This is for the Forge ecosystem. And there was this outage, I believe it was like 2 days ago, where you couldn't do anything with your Forge apps. You couldn't deploy, you couldn't run some of the builds for your apps if you're using, for example, custom UI instead of the UI kit. Those were the things that were not available to actually do, and it was kind of critical, if I can say it like that. Another interesting part where you want to actually have a look are your metrics. Well, basically where you can actually see what are some of the invocation counts, what are some invocation errors, and for which environment. So you can select, if I go like, let's say development or something like that. So I can go for development environment and I can see what was actually happening in here. So I can have some data that I need. I also have the options for the APIs, basically for the API calls and the responses themselves. And I here have for the client errors for success, and I have some for the server errors, like everything that is going from 200 and beyond until it reaches 400. It's actually the success API responses, but also starting from 300, most of those things are actually the API calls that were successful, but some of the changes actually happened. For example, the repository, or yes, the files from your repository have been moved from one branch to the another branch. Then you would have something like a response of 300 and above. Then you have some alerts in here, and these are some of the alerts where you can actually create alert rules. Not that is something that you can actually explore, but this is where you're also going to be spending a lot of time when you're monitoring for your apps and it is looking into your logs. You can add some of the filters in here. You can see some of the logs that actually happened in the last 24 hours. So yeah, there is, if I want to go here, if I want to see something that happened like last week. All right, so I have like the levels that I wanna see. So like debugging, info, warn, and so more. I can add more filters, and in here the only filter I can add are some of the major versions. But I don't have the logs for this app just yet. Let me move this here. Also have the installations page. What actually this means is that when you're creating your app, so you first create the app, you select the template and the other things, then you deploy your application. When you're deploying your application, it goes to the development environment. When it's in the development environment, it needs to be installed on your site. So this is where you're using the command forge install. And when you use forge install, then it's going to be installed. So that means that specific site actually installed your app. But of course, for that, as a prerequisite, you need to log in using your API key. I also have a usage where basically you can see some of the storage stuff, such as functions, such as log writes, total storage, and more. Yeah, you can have key value stores. So this is something for where you want to use some of the storage quotas. You have also an example to actually use some SQL to go through the database of your metrics. You also have the contributors, or basically if you want to add a contributor, you have these roles that are actually listed in here. By default, you're going to be the owner, you're going to be the admin as well. And what you can actually do in here is you can add someone as admin, deployer, developer, and the viewer. Each of these roles are specified by what kind of things they can actually do. So for example, developer, they can view some of the limited app information in the developer console, run commands to development and staging environments. So this actually means running the forge commands in the staging and in the development environments. For example, forge logs, where basically it can output all of the logs that were actually happened in some previous time. I also have like the viewer, where basically like it's saying, hey, you can only view limited stuff, and basically that's it. There is also some of the advanced permissions where you can actually grant them when you check this box as view the production logs. So this is something if you want to add to one of your users. So let's say you for your associate developers. Let's say you're a senior one and you have a junior joining by your side. You're actually teaching them about the Forge, and you're also showing them this Atlassian Developer Console. So that is how it works. Distribution, another great example. This is basically used to actually share your application with the other users using a installation link. What this does is when you actually enable this and when you enable the sharing, anyone who actually possesses that link will be able to actually install your application on their environment. But first, it needs to be on the production environment. And when it's on the production, you need to go to edit and you need to choose that you're actually sharing the app. Then you're going to have this installation link in here and so on. Or you're a vendor, or you're actually someone who is preparing for applying as the vendor, so you can actually upload your applications to the Atlassian marketplace, so the other users can actually start using your application. But for this, you would actually have to go through a long process, and most of this process is regarding the privacy policies, and these privacy policies are actually concerned on how your application is storing the data, what kind of data is being stored, and so on and so forth. And this is actually being specified when you're developing your Forge application, and within your manifest YAML file, you're actually defining some of the permissions for the scopes that your app is going to use. So is it going to read some of the Jira work? Is it going to read some of the configurations and so on and so forth? And when someone is actually installing the app, they can actually see and where it's basically saying this app does this. So that actually it will be able to create new issues or things like that. But I never seen an app that actually goes around and creates some random issues. That would be a serious security issue. And you also have options for the permissions, and then for the settings, you can change the avatar, you can change the name of the app, and finally, if this is actually something that you really want to do, you can actually delete your application. But overall, this is how your development console actually works. That's it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video. Bye bye.